1 year ago, I quit my 9 to 5 and moved cities to try and figure out how to go full-time in music production. In the last year, I've had the chance to work with 84 different artists, and it's completely flipped my perspective on what the job actually is. I thought I knew what to expect, but the reality of running a production trio and constantly managing a stream of sessions taught me things that 8 years of hobbyist production never could. It's fast-paced, it's unpredictable, and we're always learning. But the only L's we take are learnings. So if you're an artist wondering what happens behind the scenes of a professional studio, or you're a producer wondering what happens when you quit your day job, these are the 7 key lessons I've learned in 12 months of actually doing it. And make sure you watch to the end because there's a couple of traumatic stories. Before I started producing for artists, I'd just been a bedroom producer for 7 or 8 years, so I really had no concept of deadlines or external pressure for me to finish songs. Going from that to working with 80 artists in a single year and doing hundreds of sessions was a complete flip. I learned that being efficient was not only needed for running a sustainable business, but it's also valued by the artists we work with. I do want to clarify that when I say being efficient, I don't mean rushing or not understanding what the artist wants for their song, but just having templates and presets ready to go so you're not having to dive for a snare for 15 minutes. If it's taking you more than a few minutes to find the right drum sounds, then you probably don't know the artist's visions or inspirations well enough, and you need to start asking more questions. Although I think it's really important to get things done in sessions and be efficient, I still think that for me what I've learned is that I still need my old way of producing, which is really slow and no external pressure, to sort of keep scratching that creative itch, because I think they're two different things. I think being able to experiment and having to work on music production definitely fulfill different areas. To summarize this point, I think the best way to be efficient is to have templates, practice a lot, and ask the artist more questions. Because if you have a good vision of where to go, it's just going to make it so much easier to make the song. For the past year, I've been working in a production trio with my housemates Joe and Rob, and we live together and we work together, and it's been a great opportunity to learn from other people's skills. As the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We all have different roles in this group, and it sort of just naturally happened that way. I'm a keys player and I've been producing the longest, so I mostly drive the production sessions. I also do all the synth stuff and the mixing and mastering. Rob is an artist himself and he studied vocal performance, so he runs all of our vocal production sessions. And it's been really good to be able to watch him because he can go so in depth on vocal technique and how to get the best performance out of the singer, which is really valuable for the artists we work with, and has been really valuable for me because I've been able to learn so much that I don't think I would have learned just doing it by myself. So Joe runs all the business side of things, which includes all the outreach and building the relationship with the artists, which is arguably one of the most important things that you can do in this process. Because making an artist feel comfortable is ultimately what's going to let their creative juices flow and then lead to the best version of the song. If you're a solo producer, I definitely recommend working with other artists, or if you're a producer, just collaborating with other producers, because I think being stuck in an echo chamber sometimes is not what's best for your musical skills and also the music itself. Okay, so file management is not a super sexy topic, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is that you are organized. If you have good file management, it's going to save you so much time in the long run. So this is how I used to label all of my projects, and this is how I label them now. Just come up with your own system of organizing things. Try and stick to it, because you're just trying to find random things that are labeled pizza song or something. Like, if you have to guess where the song is, then you've got a problem. Sorry. Okay, so this brings me to part 2 of managing your files. Back up your shit. Okay, I'm going to tell you a slightly traumatic story. A few months ago, I was running out of space on my Mac, and I was trying to delete whatever the fuck system files are. So I installed a Clean My Mac software and a duplicates file finder to try and clear up some space. So I ran the cleaners and I went to open a project for a session I had the next day, and the whole project file just was gone. I guess it's because it kind of looks like a duplicate file for when Ableton does backups, so it just deleted a bunch of the project files. Yeah, so that sucked, and I think that was probably my most amateur moment throughout the whole 12 months. Yeah, and that really sucked because there was basically 5 entire tracks that I had to go and completely remake. And then there was a bunch more tracks where I had to go onto an old hard drive and try and find all of the missing recordings. Luckily, I've recovered most of the missing files, but it was pretty unnecessary, and I could have just done a weekly backup. It would have saved me so much time, and it would have saved me so much stress, and I would have not looked like a newbie. So please just get a hard drive and do a weekly backup. It'll save you so much time and you won't look like an amateur in front of your paying clients. But honestly, losing those files wasn't the only time I felt like an amateur this year. Technical mistakes are one thing, but I think learning the people side of business is where the real learning curve was for me. So another slightly traumatic story time early on last year that turned into a massive reality check. We were just starting out and we had a really small portfolio, so we were quite worried about scaring artists away from talking about money too early on. We reached out to this local artist and we hopped on an introduction call with her, and we even went to a party she invited us to, all to try and build rapport and prove that we were cool. So we offered a trial session just to check the vibes, but we never once mentioned our rates. So fast forward to the end of that session, we're wrapping up the beat, and now we're thinking, okay, we have to tell her we're a paid service, that we have a fee. So we tell her that moving forward, there'll be a fee if she wants to continue the song. And yeah, you could just cut the tension with a knife. It was so awkward. It was really uncomfortable. She was like, oh, I thought this was like a collaboration type of thing, like just for fun. And we were like, so yeah, that didn't end up working out. It was really awkward and uncomfortable, and from her perspective, it definitely would have seemed like a rug pull. So what we reflected on from that experience is that we need to have upfront communication with artists we work with, that we have a fee, and just make sure our intentions are clear from the start. Because if there's a misalignment in intentions, then it's just going to waste everyone's time and lead to uncomfortable situations. Content for me is one of the hardest things to get right. I personally struggle a lot with consistency and discipline, and consistency for social media is really important. Although our content hasn't done any crazy numbers, it's definitely helped us get some clients. A lot of the people we work with say that they really enjoy our content and like seeing the kind of behind the scenes footage of how our sessions go. And it makes them more comfortable when they work with us because it already feels like they kind of know us. Really, the whole point of content is for clients to come to you instead of you going to them. Because if they come to you, they don't really need to be convinced of anything because they've already heard your music and they already kind of like you as a person because they've seen your content. A lot of musicians that I've talked to don't want to post too much to social media because they think it feels disingenuous to their art or that they'll come across as spammy. And I've definitely felt this way as well. And while my content hasn't done any crazy numbers, I've posted over 100 times in the last year, and it's really helped me to stop caring what people think about when I post. For content, I think exposure therapy is the best therapy. Just post more, and I think you'll eventually figure out what you actually like posting. And at the start, it really doesn't matter because if you don't have that many followers, then no one actually really cares. And personally, I'm still trying to figure out what kind of audience I want to grow. Like, do I want to be seen as a tutorial, like an educator guy, or actually more of a producer? And I'm not really sure yet, and this video is kind of part of that process for me. I think a lot of people have analysis paralysis, which I certainly do, trying to think of the perfect video idea or make sure it's perfectly aligned to their artistic vision before they post it. And I think that's fair in some respects, but I think it's really a detriment to your own artistry because if you don't post, no one's going to see you. And that's just kind of the way the music industry works at the moment. All right, so this brings me on to the final lesson, which is to have other hobbies outside of music. Sometimes I feel like some parts of the music process can be a chore, like editing videos, coming up with ideas for videos, or doing endless revisions for some project. I think these kind of things can start draining you and ultimately just make your creative output worse. Overall productivity just worse as well. With that being said, I think having non-musical hobbies is super important to just clear your mind. And for me personally, I love going climbing. I go climbing 3 times a week. It's a nice social environment. I personally find the gym really boring and I kind of need some sort of extra stimulation. So I feel like problem solving, how to actually get up the wall, for me is like a really good balance of hard exercise, but also mental stimulation. So yeah, touch grass. So those are the 7 key lessons I've learned from the last year of being a full-time music producer. It's been a great experience and an amazing journey. I've met so many cool people. And if you'd like to subscribe and follow me along for the rest of the journey, I would really appreciate that. So thanks for watching the video. And if you enjoyed, here are some real sessions that we've done with some of the artists we've worked with.